Welcome, everyone. I'm Nancy Pfaff. Tonight, there is an opportunity to be richly present to the miracle and gift of your own life through Lectio Divina practice. Jerome Waddle, the creator and producer of My Dragon Theater Productions, is keeping an eye on the chat, so do say hello before we get to the more meditative portion. I'd love you to subscribe by clicking the bell, and then you can get notices when we post new videos and when we go live. In this Lectio Divina, we will spend time with Dr. James Finley, a living spiritual master. He is a core teacher at Richard Rohr Center for Action and Contemplation in Albuquerque, New Mexico. James has experience as a former monk and a spiritual directee of Thomas Merton. If you haven't experienced Lectio Divina before, it is a simple, ancient, experiential process of deep listening. When we are alone and still, giving our attention to a short passage of inspired prose or poetry, we can notice our reactions, signs we're experiencing our oneness with essence. We note that word or phrase evoked our response, and we take it seriously as a personal message from the deep center. Living more and more in this connected space allows us to be our true selves, free from limiting patterns and old wounds. If you're a new viewer, this is an interfaith, non-sectarian channel. All are welcome. I'll be using a variety of words for the divine. Each refers to that deep place of unity within, where unconditional love resides. I call it agape. This is not a tame love. It's a love that challenges us to live authentically. Now make yourself comfortable. Prepare a space for quiet reflection. A simple opening ritual unites body and soul for a shift in consciousness. Let the ritual be meaningful to you. Perhaps a light candle, perhaps some incense, or place a holy object near you. Ring a bell, or sip something wonderful. Before listening to the readings, it's important to set an intention. With Lectio Divina, our intention is to be open to Spirit. You might ask yourself, what grace do I want to receive? What question is burning in my heart? Take a moment now to set your intention. You might say, may I receive the grace of clarity, or may I receive the grace of comfort, or simply say, I open to agape. By paying attention to our inner reactions to the reading, we can notice essence manifesting within us. There's a message for us. I chose Dr. James Finley for our Lectio Divina because his soul has found delight in infinite union with infinite love. As a psychologist, teacher, and retreat leader, he has helped many find oneness in the divine. All this in spite of a childhood of severe mental and physical abuse. He knows what it is to face and integrate the pain of the past. Doing so releases the spiritual heart so it can open. To experience the transforming love that James Finley projects, watch the many videos online. The love of agape coming from his true self is a love that evokes the same within us. There's a 3-minute video called Imagine a Stone Falling. It is an inspirational meditation. There will be a link later in the description. James Finley says, quote, "The poetic image is of a stone falling in water, falling, falling, falling," end quote. This is his metaphor for the soul falling into that which finally satisfies it, infinite union with infinite love. As a man of 18, he left home for an unlikely destination, the Abbey of Gethsemane, where Thomas Merton lived as a contemplative. Jim stayed at the monastery for 6 maturing years. He later wrote a book in order to share with us a taste of what he had learned on his spiritual journey with Merton. For over 25 years, James Finley's book, Merton's Palace of Nowhere, has been the standard for exploring, reflecting on, and understanding the wisdom of Thomas Merton, a spiritual director for those desiring union with the divine. Jim says, quote, "Merton writes that God is all about us and within us, dancing away in and as the primordial rhythms of our breathing, in and as each new day giving way to the night that gives way to the emergence of a new day. God is dancing away, inviting us to forget ourselves on purpose, to cast our awful solemnity to the wind and join in the general dance. Then we unexpectedly awaken to our true self, one with God in the midst of our fragility and all our wayward ways." Let's turn now to our readings. There will be 3 readings with a moment of silence between. The 3rd reading will be a special pre-recorded reading by Jerome Waddle. We'll begin by relaxing and opening. Let's take 2 long, deep breaths together. Now, let's enter that space. A space like no other space. A time like no other time. You may close or soften your eyes. Imagine or sense yourself in a beautiful setting. Attend to that which catches your interest. Be present to the beauty there. Inhale the beauty. Let gratitude arise. Release your cares in this place and be present to the reading. The first reading, I love you breathing. On the inhale, I listen to Agape's I love you, breathing into me the gift of my very life. I inhale the generosity of the divine, breathing into me the gift of my life and my nothingness without God. When I exhale myself with all my heart. I exhale my silent I love you, giving myself in love to the divine that with the next inhalation gives itself to me. 1 minute of silence. The second reading, I love you breathing. On the inhale, I listen to Agape's I love you, breathing into me the gift of my very life. I inhale the generosity of the divine, breathing into me the gift of my life and my nothingness without God. When I exhale myself with all my heart. I exhale my silent I love you, giving myself in love to the divine that with the next inhalation gives itself to me. One minute of silence. The third reading.
I love you, breathing. On the inhale, I listen to Agape's I love you, breathing into me the gift of my very life. I inhale the generosity of the divine breathing into me, the gift of my life and my nothingness without God. When I exhale myself with all my heart. I exhale my silent I love you, giving myself in love to the divine, that with the next inhalation gives itself to me.
One minute of silence. Continue to be present to your experience. Take a moment now to observe what's happening within you. Just be still and pay attention. The divine is moving in you. As you return to your wakeful state, blink your eyes. Now notice something in your space that is beautiful. The shape, the color. Smile. Now let me tell you a story. It illustrates the way agape love works in a life to bring healing, expansion, and spiritual growth. I'm sharing something very personal in a sequence of events that includes a Lectio Divina experience. I wonder if you've been surprised by a strong reaction to a seemingly neutral event. Well, that's what happened to me a few weeks ago. I was presented with an opportunity to take on a more public role. It was an honor and an affirmation, yet I reacted with intense feelings of fear. A more public role meant exposure, and my overreaction told me the fear of exposure was still living in me. Fear left over from growing up in an alcoholic family. I felt a need to hide. That old pattern was a need to stay small and hidden, a coping mechanism from childhood. That memory that gripped me was of my 6-year-old self hiding from my father in an upstairs closet. She needed love. So I mentally stepped into the memory to feel the feelings of this terrified child so that she didn't have to carry them alone. I was present to her, holding her. To bring this inner experience into the outer world, I painted a watercolor. In it, she is hiding in the closet with the woman I am today, holding her in love. I put the painting where I could see it throughout the day. Gradually, the panic I felt subsiding, and the child within experiencing healing. At the same time, I was reading an older novel called The Summer House by Jude Deveraux. In it, 3 women have a chance to change one event in their past. Each woman has a difficult man in her life, a man who gives messages that she is not good enough. Later in the story, these women make new choices and their lives blossom, so it ends well. The contrast between their burdened lives and their flowering lives was what caught my attention, a Lectio Divina moment. It reminded me that I was blossoming and wanting to be free, yet I was held back by old wounds. These moments when I am free and not oppressed by my false self, my coping self, are like heaven on earth. It is a sense of being whole with joy. To illustrate my own blossoming, I painted this picture titled The Green Dress. It was inspired by a vision. A man in the vision asked me if I'd like to step out of my limited understanding of who I really was. He was referring to an old cloak that covered me from head to toe. He said, "Can I help you off with that?" I said, "Please do." And he slipped off that old cloak. Underneath that cloak was my limited ego self. No, I'm going to repeat that. Underneath that cloak that was my limited ego self, I was wearing a beautiful green, sophisticated gown, one that royalty might wear. I was whole, beautiful, and one with the divine. I knew in the vision this was my true self, that self free of the wounds and distortions picked up over a lifetime, free of the ego calling the shots. It was the woman I was born to be. This true self lives in each of us. It lives in you. To sum up, my overreaction to take on a more public role propelled me to work through my fear of exposure. Feeling the fear in my child self, and then the aha with the Lectio Divina moment were healing. The moment I noticed the women in the novel making new decisions and blossoming, I was aware that I was more than a wounded child inside, that I was blossoming too. You're blossoming too, or you wouldn't be watching this video. May I encourage you to do your own inner work. You have a treasure within yourself greater than anything you can imagine. You are a treasure. Now, before we go, I'd love for you to share in comments what moved you, whether your intention was met, what you liked, or you may leave a question. You can just let us know you watched us. To enjoy Jerome Waddle's readings, just type Jerome Waddle in the YouTube search bar. If you'd like to contact me as a spiritual director, or to chat about your favorite video or your pets, email me at sacredquestreno@gmail.com. I'd love to know what caught your interest tonight. For more about my background, see the introduction to this series. Thank you for joining me. May the love that passes all understanding keep you in peace.